Hi, it's T. Carlson here. Metallica is probably the biggest heavy metal band on the planet. They're the only rock band that has ever played on all 7 continents. They continue to put out albums, continue to rock the world, and have a reputation in more countries than you can count. About 20 years ago, Metallica put out the Saint Anger album, which is largely reviled and considered the worst album in the band's catalog. At least it was until they made that thing with Lou Reed a few years later. But the process of making that album was pretty turbulent and involved a lot of events that weren't exactly conducive to the overall nature of the band, with them drifting apart, clashing, and dealing with obstacles in and out of the studio. Metallica, Some Kind of Monster, is a documentary that came out about 20 years ago, chronicling the making of the Saint Anger album and all the trials and tribulations the band went through to make it. Believe it or not, I had never seen this movie before, despite being a Metallica fan and it having been on the market for nearly 2 decades now. Of course, we look at some documentary filmmakers that go into the studio with Metallica, seeing what they were doing. They'd been getting back together for the first time in a long time, and this was a very turbulent time for the band because they'd just parted ways with longtime bassist Jason Newsted, who at the time was playing with his project entitled Echo Brain. So, in addition to recording a new album, the band also had to find a new bass player. And part of that process involved having their producer, Bob Rock, play the bass on the Saint Anger album. We get to see the band members' families, including their children, visiting the studio. We learn about a trip that James Hetfield had to take to rehab during the sessions, which of course put a serious delay on things. We get to see the band reuniting with Megadeth frontman Dave Mustaine, who of course was an original member of Metallica back in the day, with whom they had a very estranged relationship. And then we see the rest of the band trying to put their differences aside, get back together, and record a new album. It's very intense at times, and it is certainly some of the most interesting Metallica content that I've ever seen. I can't believe that I'd put off seeing this documentary for so long, because it's actually very well put together. Even if I don't like the recordings that came from this session, there's no denying that this is a very intense, very solid look at one of the world's hardest rocking, hard rock and metal bands. Now, again, this was my first time seeing the movie, but I do have to say, this DVD looks good for the most part. There is a little bit of archival footage, which understandably looks worse than the rest of the movie. But for the most part, the newly filmed interviews actually look pretty solid. We do get a second DVD disc that also includes some bonus material, including footage from premieres, footage from Q&As the band did, some additional interviews and footage that didn't make it into the final movie. I do wish that included a play all button for some of that stuff. It would have been a little more convenient. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this package turned out. It's a great documentary that's well worth watching for any fan of Metallica, even if you weren't a fan of the Saint Anger album. How about you? Are you a fan of Metallica? What did you think of this Some Kind of Monster documentary? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more content. I'm always posting new videos. And make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm T. Carlson. I'll see you next time.